Hello, everybody. Editing Kyle here. I just wanted to put a minor trigger warning in. So at the end of this video, we bring up a game that involves some pet death. Now, granted, this is animal pet death. They are zombified animals. But again, I do want to bring that up in case that is something that is sensitive for some of our viewers. I know sometimes that comes up. So the timestamp will be here if I did my job right. But in any case, thank you all so much for watching and enjoy the video. Bye, everyone. We all love good old-fashioned fantasy and adventuring games. There's something great about rolling up to a table, grabbing a couple dice, and playing an RPG with some friends. But, you know, as amazing as these epic adventures are, sometimes you want to return to a simpler age and a simpler time where we could just play some good old-fashioned Flash games. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Desks and Dorks. I'm Kyle. I am the Dork. Huge thank you to everybody who continues to blow up our gold video. It means the world to me. I really appreciate it. We are very swiftly nearing 2,000 subscribers, which is super cool. If you feel like we have earned your subscription, it would mean a lot if you did. Liking and sharing, of course, helps us out immensely as well. And if you really want to help us keep the lights on, you can purchase any of the RPGs that Desks and Dorks publishes over at itch.io, or, and if you want physical copies, at the description below. Now, here's how this is going to work. I had a wonderful little bit of criticism and critique from one of our viewers who said, hey, it's been really hard to watch some of the videos because there's not as much visually going on. So a lot of this is going to be undercut with gameplay footage. I have been experimenting using footage from films and television. However, we keep getting copyright claimed despite the fact that these are what I would consider at the very least under fair use. So if anyone has any tips for that, I would actually genuinely appreciate it. I've been trying to do pretty much everything to make it work, and it doesn't. But without further ado, let's talk about some amazing Flash games to play when you just want to scratch that role-playing game itch. And we're going to start with one of my favorites, a dungeon crawling classic called Monster's Den: The Book of Dread. Monster's Den: The Book of Dread is a classic dungeon crawler in the vein of things like Eye of the Beholder. One of the cool parts about this game is it has you taking on the role of a party of adventurers. Why I like this is you can begin a brand new game and you can either take on, of course, the Den of Corruption, which was the original campaign from the first Monster's Den, or the Den of Terror. And if those aren't your speed, you can always jump into the Fall of Telyanos, which is an actual version of a horde mode inside of a classic dungeon crawler. You begin the game by selecting from a wonderful little group of characters. I'm always partial to the Barbarian because their ability to charge the backline and cleave multiple players, or multiple monsters I should say. I also love having at least 1 to 2 clerics in the party for supporting magic, and if you're like me, you would love for the Ranger to finally get their actual day in the sun, and I love playing the Ranger as they're able to buff against poison, add health regeneration, and attack multiple targets using special arrows or do pinning shots to stun the opponents. One of Monster's Den's defining features that I really enjoy is its roguelike nature. As you click through rooms, your party will manage to explore and find out new things about the dungeon, coming across interesting monsters along the way. As you explore, you'll also get access to treasure. Consumables help make the journey a little bit easier, while weapons and armor can be equipped with just a simple click on the character screen. Eventually, however, you will get to a fight against monsters, indicated by these 2 crossed swords. Another feature that I really enjoy about this is that every floor has its own particular theme. The theme that we find ourselves here is up against the monsters of myth. This is a classic Monsters Manual kind of floor that focuses on draconic creatures, as well as some other ones that you might enjoy from classic fantasy. So for example, basilisks, storm drakes, poison drakes, this lovely little spider, and occasionally, as indicated by that aura around those swords that I clicked on, a boss monster, like in this case, Small Goffin. In the end, Monster's Den: The Book of Dread is a great time killer. If you've got half an hour to 45 minutes and you want to be able to play something that's light but feels like it has the bite and depth of some of our favorite character-driven RPGs, particularly the fantasy-driven ones, you will absolutely love this. You'll also love this if you're a fan of old-school turn-based dungeon crawlers, and I know that I certainly am, and for being a totally free Flash game, this one's honestly pretty great. But what if you don't like fantasy games? Perhaps you want something a little bit more in the post-apocalyptic. Perhaps you like a good old-fashioned economics simulator. Well, my friends, let me introduce you to Caravaneer. So, full disclosure, Caravaneer looks like it was hit by a sepia-toned dump truck. The visuals have not, and I mean not, aged particularly well, even by Flash game standards, but if you get past its post-apocalyptic scrawl and you begin its game, you'll find a wealth and depth of incredible gameplay. Start the story mode off, build your character with a range of stats, including physical shape, which is your health, agility. Think of this as your speed as well as your action points. So a higher agility in this particular game winds up being incredibly important. Accuracy, which will determine your ability to use firearms, something that will come into great play much later. And intelligence, which goes a long way to helping you barter for the things you're going to need to survive in this post-apocalyptic world. Intelligence will raise the cost at which you can sell your goods and lower the cost at which you can buy things. That's right, folks. This is a turn-based, apocalyptic combat economic simulator. After you begin the game and collect inheritance from a dead uncle that you never actually knew, you'll find yourself in one of the game's 2 separate areas. Gameplay begins usually in a small town like this, where you will take your caravan, you'll go to the market, and you'll purchase things that you are able to sell at other towns. Pulling up your map, for example, lets you know that you are here in the starting town of Pocacosa. A common trade route, for example, might have you delivering food to Drushlak, buying hide at Drushlak, selling it in Cagnal for an additional cost, and then coming back to Pocacosa to finish the route. As the game progresses, you will take on more powerful routes with greater risk and much greater reward. The joy of Caravaneer comes in actually mapping out the cost to benefit ratio of what you can find here in this town's area and combining that with the people that you hire. Your caravan is going to be kitted out with a bunch of different randos. By the way, this is my boy Naijab. Naijab is the actual GOAT. I don't care what anybody says. If you have played this game, you'll know Naijab is the actual best, and we literally love him. This dude is a workhorse, puts the team on his back. But more importantly, once you've kitted out your people, you'll go to town and kit them out with some additional things. Water, for example, will allow you to continue to move. The more water you're able to store, the more your people are able to go. But the meat of this game comes in its firearms. Bolt-action rifles will give you just a little bit of extra power, especially over long ranges. Things like Berettas, for example, or this wonderful Luger Parabellum, will allow for multiple shots, but they're not particularly great over long ranges, and that is a problem because as you go into this game, you'll start with bolt-action rifles and pistols, and you'll start fighting against people with fully automatic heavy machine guns and RPGs. Also, not too much of a spoiler, but later on, especially if you're moving up to this top right-hand corner of this map, we used to call this the Amazonian Desert because there are entire bandit caravans of like 16 women, all armed with katanas and scimitars, and they try to do to you what I imagine a blender would do to a very bit of soft, overripe fruit. They will churn you up and spit you out and leave nothing but carcasses for the desert to devour. I love this game. Once you actually venture out into the wilderness, chances are you will be attacked by robbers, which will bring you to our combat screen. I was not joking earlier when I said that this game looks like it's been hit by a sepia-toned dump truck. The visuals are uninspired, to say the least. These lovely blips of color are robbers. They have swords, you can tell because of the sword. If I scroll up, here's my character. Here he is. The wonderful, the great, the powerful Martin Maloshi. Now, as we mentioned before, your action points, or AP, are directly related to your agility. I've got my trusty Springfield, which is something I inherited from that dead uncle, and I can actually switch. An aim shot, for example, might do a little bit more damage, or have a lot more accuracy here at a longer range. Let's see if I hit it. Oh my god, I did. What's really cool about this game is despite the fact that the visuals are really bad, you might have heard me jump out of my skin, that made a very loud bang in my headphones, which I have turned down the game sound so that you guys don't get to hear it. But the game sounds are actually pretty solid for a Flash game, to the point that I kind of forgot how good some of these game sounds were. Again, notice, for example, I can do 2 quick shots, though, because I have 8 AP, so let's try 2 quick shots. Nice, I managed to hit one of them. One of the other cool things about this particular game, I know this combat does not look really inspiring, and in fact, it doesn't seem that way, but I promise once you get multiple people in your caravan, so for example, I only have my trusty lovely donkey and this one cart, But I promise you, once you get more people in your caravan, this game actually becomes a giant, grueling tactical slog, and I mean that in the best possible ways. But again, this is a game that you're going to have to sort of bite the bullet, and I do mean that pun intended. But once you sort of bite the bullet, get used to the visuals, and commit to this economic simulation and turn-based, heads-up tactical sort of gameplay, there is a lot to sink your teeth into here. Also, what I love about this combat system is as your characters progress throughout the game, they are going to grow. So just like it's something like Morrowind or Oblivion, for example, as your characters continue to do things, they will grow. So the more you use guns, for example, the more your agility is going to go up and your sniping skill will improve. So just like Oblivion or Morrowind, your stuff is going to improve the more that you actually use it. And that, I think, is one of the coolest parts of Caravaneer. You know, we've done a lot with turn-based though, so what if you want something with the trappings of a role-playing game, but that focuses on live, action, gaming? You know, something that gets the blood pumping? A type of game that requires a lot of brains. Well, then, my friends, you'd have to do our favorite, or at least my favorite, zombie flash game, The Last Stand. Now, your mileage may vary, and for example, you might really enjoy The Last Stand 1, but I particularly prefer The Last Stand 2, so that's going to be the game that we're going with. The gameplay is actually split into two separate sections. There is a survival shooting section, which I'll show you what that looks like right now, and a base building section that sees you pushing against luck and racing against time to get to an evacuation point. So, how does it work? Well, let's start right now. In the beginning, Kyle said, "Let there be zombies," and there were. In the beginning, you are by yourself manning the barricades with nothing more than a lowly pistol. You can move your character up and down like this, and you control the cursor by shooting like so. The R button allows you to reload. It's all relatively simple. Much like every other classic zombie game, you will get additional damage if you go for the heads, as opposed to going from the torso. Once you're done defending your barricade, we get into the light role-playing part of this, and I say light role-playing because really it's more of a strategy game where you're using the time the game allows you in order to actually accrue survivors, weapons, and rebuild your barricade so that you can make it to the next town. There's an overarching goal, so for example, you might see this post-it note in the bottom right-hand corner that says we have enough supplies for 0 days of travel. You want to get to the extraction point, and you really only have a limited amount of time to do that. So, you can't stay in one town for too long. Every single town that you go to then becomes a risk reward. Do you risk staying in the town for longer, but risk losing the game because you did so? Now you might be wondering what these different buildings do, and I'm happy to tell you. So the game is actually really simple and pretty self-explanatory. So when you hover over one of these buildings, for example, our sheriff's office, it provides you with a couple different things. One is the search time in hours that it will take for you to clear that building. So for example, our sheriff's office takes about 3 hours to clear. That lovely little icon means that if we go here, we are more likely to find weapons. Now, these weapons don't just give us random stat boosts, these are actual weapons that our character can use in-game, and one of my favorite features is that you actually can give those weapons to some of the NPCs that you will find throughout the campaign. How do you find an NPC, you might ask? For example, houses or anything marked house has a good chance of helping you find non-player characters that will help you man the barricade and protect it. Now, let's say that you want to repair your barricade. So for example, you'll notice that your barricade has 70 out of 80 hit points. You will actually have to dedicate at least 1 hour to repairing, and you will see that one repair or 1 hour of repairs equals about 5 points. So the game is a constant juggling act between looking for more weapons, which are A, really freaking cool to use, and B, essential to helping you advance through more advanced waves of zombies. And that's the main meat of it. As you continue to move through these different towns, that juggling act, that tightrope walk of time, resources, survivors, your barricade's health, and the constant need to upgrade your arsenal is really what makes this game something incredibly special. In the end, The Last Stand is one of those kind of games that I really enjoy. It's a very simple game to play, but it's a game that juggles all of its little moving pieces in ways that are really, really interesting. And with that, my friends, that's going to bring us to the end of our video. If you really liked what we do here, and you really enjoy what we do, go on and give us a like, a share, a comment, a subscribe. Those things actually go a very, very, very long way to helping us out and helping us to create the kind of channel that we really want to. If you want us to really help keep the lights on, you can actually purchase any of our role-playing games in the links in the description below, and if you really want to play any of these games, I have included links to all of the different websites where you can go to play these Flash games. I hope that you really enjoyed this. This was a fun sort of trip down memory lane for me, and a huge thank you to one of our subscribers who said, hey, why don't you try using gameplay footage to help you, I don't know, create a more maybe engaging visual experience. Let me know if this worked. I know it's probably pretty rough. This is my first time doing this sort of screen capture for the channel. So in any case, thank you all so much again. I'm Kyle for Desks and Dorks. You have been absolutely amazing. See you in the next one. Peace.